You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Monday, the 17th of February 2014. UK firms to slow hiring, tackle weak productivity. Tensions high among Crawley Muslim community as police search properties linked to alleged suicide bomber. British police probe New Britain death in Syria. Denmark to ban halal and kosher slaughter methods. Spain admits firing rubber bullets at migrants swimming to enclave. Almost 400 immigrants rescued off Lampedusa on Saturday. Austin with World at 8 Armageddon. The new jihadists make Al-Qaeda look like tired old has-beens. Nigeria, cannibal restaurant with roasted human heads on the menu shut down by police. China plans the world's longest undersea tunnel. Thought for the day, has the UK gone mad? And finally, a joke to offend Mexicans, blacks, Muslims and rednecks. UK news. UK firms to slow hiring, tackle weak productivity. The number of British firms looking to recruit new staff has fallen to its lowest since 2010 as companies seek to squeeze more out of existing staff, a quarterly survey of personnel managers showed on Monday. Weak productivity has been a problem for Britain for years and 2013's rebound in growth failed to resolve it. Instead, firms responded to strong economic expansion with more hiring, creating a record number of odd jobs but limiting pay rises. The Chartered Institute for Personnel and Development said on Monday that this may start to change in 2014 with rates of hiring returning to more normal levels, though it would take longer before wages start to rise significantly. Tensions high amongst Crawley Muslim community as police search properties linked to alleged suicide bomber. Tensions are high amongst the Muslim community in Crawley following reports up to 5 properties are being searched in relation to the suspected Crawley suicide bomber. Police and South East counter-terrorism officers have been at the second property in Langley Green Thursday in what is believed to be part of the inquiry. Arif Syed, chairman of Crawley Mosque and a spokesman for the town's Muslim community, said, "As I understand there is one property being searched in Langley Drive, one in St John's Close, but I'm also being told that there will be further searches carried out. These people are being kicked out of their homes and the police have the audacity to ask us to house them at the mosque while they carry out their searches. It's a witch hunt. The public are going ballistic. The Muslim community are absolutely outraged by this. Tensions are very high. They are all friends of Mr Majid. I'm a friend of Mr Majid. This is such a tight-knit community here. We're all set to meet tomorrow at the mosque and I already know that the temperature will be high." World at 8. Beware, my Islamic friends. You don't want to blow this one out of proportion and cry wolf. When in a host country, especially one that doesn't want or ask for you, you'll have to be more careful. If you cannot handle your extremists, then we will. Get over it. British police probe New Britain death in Syria. Counter-terror police searched a house in northwest England Thursday after the reported death of a Briton in Syria, a day after raiding a home linked to an alleged suicide bomber. The BBC named the dead man as Anil Khalil Raifi, known as Abu Laith, from the Didsbury district of Manchester. Police confirmed they were carrying out a search and offering support to the family. Officers investigating a reported death of a British citizen in Syria are today carrying out a search of a house in Manchester, Detective Chief Inspector Will Chatterton of the North West Counter-Terrorism Unit said in a statement. As part of this inquiry, officers are also providing support to the family and are speaking to them to understand how a man from the North West came to be reportedly killed in Syria. World at 8. Yup, I would support them too. All the way to the airport to deport them. Muslims don't do anything without the support of other Muslims, and that is a fact. European news. Denmark to ban halal and kosher slaughter methods. Denmark's Agriculture and Food Ministry has announced that as of Monday, the Jewish and Muslim traditional method of animal slaughter will be banned in the country, following similar measures already in place in Poland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden and Switzerland. A new law requires that all animals are stunned before being slaughtered, which is contrary to Islamic and Jewish teachings. This means that observant Muslims and Jews living in Denmark will no longer be able to purchase their meat from local butchers and will have to buy imported halal and kosher meat instead. The ministry argues that halal and kosher slaughter methods are unethical and that religious rights do not come before animal rights. However, Muslims and Jews insist that their slaughter methods cause minimal suffering to the animals. European Commission for Health, Tonio Borg, condemned the ban, saying that it contradicts European law. Agriculture and Food Minister Karen Hagerup acknowledged that Muslims and Jews were upset by the new measures, but vowed that the ministry would not change its policy. World at 8. Unfortunately, although kosher is slightly more humane, as in only one animal in the room at the time and not hung up to bleed out, I think we should do the same in the UK. We are just food prostitutes in this country. Anything, anyhow, and any time. Spain admits firing rubber bullets at migrants swimming to enclave. Row breaks out after Spain admits it fired rubber bullets into the sea as migrants attempted to swim into Spanish territory from Morocco. Spain's government has admitted firing rubber bullets at migrants as they attempted to swim from Morocco into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta during an incident last week in which at least 12 people are thought to have drowned. The admission from Jorge Fernández Díaz, the Interior Minister of Spain, to Parliament on Thursday contradicts earlier statements by Spain's Guardia Civil, who insisted that no bullets had been fired and came after complaints by human rights organisations. World at 8. What's with the rubber bits? Almost 400 immigrants rescued off Lampedusa on Saturday. Italian boats rescued 393 immigrants in the Straits of Sicily on Saturday. The Eliseo ship rescued 198 migrants, of which 15 were minors, and the Espero ship saved another 195. Added to the 79 people rescued by the Espero on Friday, the total has now reached 472. The Eliseo is currently on another rescue mission after the Coast Guard's General Command reported a rubber dinghy with 110 immigrants southeast of Lampedusa. The sighting was confirmed by the MSC Maria and then by one of the Eliseo's choppers, which found 3 more dinghies between 120 and 140 miles from Lampedusa. World at 8. Are these illegals thick or are they extracting the Michael? What rescue? Why rescue? They're illegal and not wanted. Leave them. Once a country takes up the cudgels for these Africans and Arabs, they become, or rather their people become, responsible for them. I now hand you over to Austin Davis with World at 8 Armageddon.
I should like this evening to talk to you for a while about my island. My island comprises a relatively small country, but with a relatively large population, for reasons I shall expand upon in due course. It's a veritable jewel set in an azure sea. It is separated from the nearby continent by a short but crucial strait of sea miles. My island has a proud history that goes back thousands of years, over which time many peoples have visited, made war, and taken what they will, whilst others have stayed, colonising and cultivating the land, and remaining to form part of what has evolved to be a disparate and resourceful island race that now constitutes a distinct indigenous people. Together with compatible minorities with whom the peoples happily interacted and coexisted, they have lived in relative peace and concord, despite a number of unfortunate areas of contention that arose from time to time, for many centuries. These indigenous peoples all talk the same language, more or less, albeit with such rich regional variations that many an international visitor is still left confounded by them to this day. They are in general a godly folk, serving their God in a ritually diverse fashion. There has evolved great tolerance, celebration even, of religious faith and diversity. After 1,000 years of relative racial, ethnic and religious stability, parts of my island began to be colonised by an alien people who travelled in great numbers to enjoy a prosperity they could never aspire to in their own lands. They came initially at the behest of would-be employers, and with the help and encouragement of successive corrupt governments, who could be readily made to dance to the tune of cheap labour and new votes. But they continued to come even after the doors had been supposedly closed, simply by breaching the meagre defences that narrow channel affords, by furtively crossing the mere 18 miles of water with a regularity that mocked dysfunctional border controls that were so inept as to attract derision and accusation of collusion. These aliens brought with them a different religion, an entirely different language, and a foreign culture. They remained a race apart, rarely integrating with the people they had come to live amongst, and maintaining a distance from and a hostility towards their host peoples. And the people amongst whom they had come to live grew to rue the very day of that coming. But these new islanders prospered and multiplied, and their influence was seen to grow. Many members of Parliament arose from amongst their number, dividing representation along ethnic lines. Demands of beneficiary concessions were made and granted with a tedious regularity: separate places of worship, exclusive faith schools, cultural heritage centres. Inevitably, as their numbers increased, so did the pressure exerted on government, and in one supposedly final concession, the language of their homeland was granted official national status. Henceforth, everything from road signs to parliamentary drafts to food labelling had to be produced bilingually. But it wasn't enough. Nothing was ever enough. Whole districts gradually became no-go areas, so far as the indigenous people were concerned. As the aliens moved in, everyone who could moved out, leaving only the poor, the old and infirm, and the vulnerable to remain in miserable isolation in the hostile environment they once loved and were proud to call home. The cities especially became divided territories with conflicting communities leading parallel existences and rarely crossing over. Other than the invaders, amongst whose number were counted myriad traders and shopkeepers, developing a sub-economy culture whereby they sold to everyone, but only ever bought from within their own community. Thus the new cats got fatter, and the rest were no better than dogs anyway, so didn't matter. Then one morning the sun rose as it had done for millions of millennia before, but on that day a critical inflection point was reached. Something was to change in a manner so profound, so intense, as to shake the very foundations of nationhood and challenge the very order of civilization. And my venerable island looked into the abyss and saw there the end of an epoch and the spilt blood of a generation. The region to the north of the country had become so dominantly ethnic that the aliens had been allowed to run it along the lines of their own beliefs, along the lines of traditions embedded in the semi-arid wastelands of the place from whence they had come. They paid minimal lip service to the law proper, and a nervous and dithery administration stood by as boundaries of acceptability were stretched to breaking point and beyond. The alien, the malcontent, the usurper had, to all intents and purposes, established an unofficial, independent sub-state. That night in the north, a regional police station was attacked by a meticulously orchestrated and brutal mob. 13 police officers were hacked to death, and the building gutted by fire and destroyed. The fire and ambulance services responded to desperate pleas for help, but their number were forced to flee on foot when their vehicles were firstly corralled and then rammed by hijacked buses, before finally being set ablaze. It had begun. And to find out how it finished, you'll have to tune in next week. Same BNP time, same BNP channel. Austin Davies, World at 8, just down the road from Armageddon.
Thank you, Austin. Loved it. Look forward to the second part. World news. The new jihadists make Al-Qaeda look like a tired old has-been. The creation of a de facto Islamic State in Syria could act as a springboard for a takeover of the Arab world. There is something rather laughable about the fugitive leader of Al-Qaeda railing, as he has been recently, against the violent tactics employed by a new generation of Islamist militants. This, after all, is an organisation that is no stranger to committing wanton acts of unprovoked violence, such as last year's assault on Nairobi's Westgate shopping mall. Judging from reports this week, it may also radicalise the first British man to carry out suicide bombing in the Syrian civil war. But what really seems to be bugging Ayman al-Zawahiri, Al-Qaeda's ideological linchpin, is not so much the violent methods being employed by militants fighting in Syria and Iraq, but the fact that they are no longer prepared to take orders from him. He is the godfather of Islamist terrorism, but an increasingly isolated one. This is certainly the view of American intelligence officials, who closely monitor every aspect of Islamist activity around the world. What we're looking at is the replacement of Al-Qaeda by a new generation of Islamist militants who have a far more radical and focused agenda, a senior US counter-terrorism official in an interview in Washington. The new generation of these terrorists are far more ambitious. They are not just content with plotting terror attacks against the West, they are determined to create their own Islamist state. This would certainly explain the deepening rift between traditional Al-Qaeda affiliated groups such as the Nusra Front, which have waged a sustained campaign of terror against the Assad regime in Syria, and their even more aggressive rivals such as the Islamic State of Iraq and Al-Sham, ISIS. Speaking from his hideout in Pakistan's tribal areas last week, Zawahiri was reduced to issuing a pathetic statement, complaining that the new generation of Islamist terrorists were pursuing their own agenda. "We weren't informed about its creation nor counselled," Zawahiri said of ISIS, "nor are we satisfied with it. Rather, we ordered it to stop. Nor is Al-Qaeda responsible for its actions and behaviour." In many respects, Zawahiri and the remnants of the original Al-Qaeda leadership seem to be vainly shouting in the wilderness. World at 8. Oh, please. Nigeria. Cannibal restaurant with roasted human heads on the menu shut down by police. Police arrested 11 people and closed a restaurant down after 2 human heads wrapped in cellophane were discovered at a hotel restaurant that had been serving human flesh. A tip-off led police to the macabre discovery in Anambra, Nigeria, with 11 people being arrested and AK-47 guns and other weapons being seized. Human flesh was apparently being sold as an expensive treat at the restaurant, with authorities saying that roasted human head was even on the menu. World at 8. And these are the people we're rescuing and giving homes in the UK and Europe to? Are we mad or delusional? And we're encouraging them to breed more of their own kind. I don't care if these people are black, white or bloody purple. I don't want them in my country with my tribes. Final! China plans the world's longest undersea tunnel. China is planning another engineering marvel, a tunnel more than twice the length of the Channel Tunnel underneath Bohai Bay. At more than twice the length of Channel Tunnel, China's latest mega project is not short of ambition. A 76-mile-long tunnel will run between the northern city of Dalian with Yantai on the east coast. Work could begin as early as 2015 or 2016, said Wang Menshu, an expert at the Chinese Academy of Engineering, to the China Daily. He added that the new tunnel will knock 800 miles off the current route between the two cities. It will also form a vital link in a high-speed rail line from China's frozen north to the tropical island of Hainan in the south. World at 8. Oh dear. I was hoping it would stretch all the way to Nigeria and they could eat each other up. No shortage of human heads in China, I would imagine. Thought for the day. Has the UK gone mad? No, I'm not having a rant, but it is Monday, our fences are down and not covered by Tesco insurance, never have insurance with a supermarket chain, and I am looking at today's DM and thanking my lucky stars we haven't been flooded out, killed by trees or washed away whilst eating dinner. So all in all I am counting my plus points here, but what is happening to the general attitude of the youth in this country? I can understand the ennui coming from a country and a people who are paying through the nose for an invasion of foreigners not equalled since perhaps the invasion of England by the Normans, plus paying massive amounts of shekels to a foreign power which hates us and giving vast sums of money towards peoples of other countries that up sticks and come here anyway. This I can understand. What I cannot understand is how the web or any machine has become a virtual way of living, or rather not living, in this country. We have tots of two banging their little hooves on the floor if their sodding mobiles, notepad or whatever they call them, is taken away as they need to eat, go to sleep or pee. We have online bullying and name calling from cowards who think they have a brain, let alone an opinion. My message to them is no one gives a damn, matey. The delete button is alive and well, thank you. But we have young girls actually believing it when a total stranger tells them they are not worth the air they breathe. Now call me cynical, but why the hell do they read such crap, let alone take any notice of it? Now call me insensitive, but I am actually a very sensitive person, and believe me, words do hurt. This weekend, which I cannot class as the best weekend in my life for various reasons, I received several calls on my mobile from someone with a distinctive Asian accent, who kept asking me if I was the BNP, and that did it stand for Britain Needs More Parkies, his words, not mine. When I told him finally that it stood for Britain Needs More Pricks, he gave vent to some very bad language for a Muslim or something Johnny Foreigner. Was I hurt? No. I laughed, as did my better half, so this retard's many calls were wasted. But I can understand youngsters at the beginning of their lives suddenly realising that people, many people, are not very nice people at all, and in fact wouldn't pee on you if you were on fire. What has to be understood is that many, if not most of these mobile and web verbal criminals have either no lives, no loves, too much time and too little grey matter to count. When you have youngsters or upwardly mobile 20-somethings drinking themselves to death to be on someone's screen, then you know that there is something missing from society and indeed humanity. It isn't a Western problem especially, it's wherever there is a computer, mobile phone or any form of techie vision or contact. People even picky mobile the killing of Lee Rigby as opposed to actually getting their hands dirty and tackling these two murdering black bastards, and I'm ashamed to say it was mainly their own kind who avoided them, black immigrants, who should not be here in the first place. Perhaps soon, even in the courts, mobile pickies will count as evidence. Frankly, if I'd hacked off a man's head in broad daylight, the last thing I would want to do is have a chat to a bystander. My first thought would be to leave the country. And, although I like a drinky, the thought of downing 2 pints of neat gin with tea bags in makes me feel more than a little sick. What is it called? Neck nominate? It sounds like a brownies badge, doesn't it? Well, it beats the anorexic web, I suppose. But the point being, why are our youth today so open to sheer evil and stupidity? They seem to be falling into the hands of the pro-Islam brigade, who to all intents and purposes, when not tack-fearing around EastEnders, are against drink and drugs, but of course this does not stop them promoting them online or selling them in their shops and taxi services to the Western youth. Thanks to a virtual crackdown on everything that relates to family and religion, standards and ethics, and of course anything that might promote national pride, apart from the sodding awful UK Olympics and that terrible opening ceremony, in that we promote everything non-British or English, in the form of pandering to multiculturalism in the extreme, there's been a large black hole in our young for the last 3 generations. How can you expect the young to gravitate towards anything other than what they see before their eyes, or in this case, fingers as well? They think they have control over a small machine, when in fact a computer or mobile is only as good or useful as the people using it and feeding it data. The general message of the media towards youth is to be thin, be black or brown, hate yourselves and hate your country, love other cultures, creeds and colours as they are better than your own, and remember you and every future white person owes a debt to the blacks or the browns or purple people eaters. Deny any form of religion you were born with, question everything from an outsider's view, and have no loyalty towards anything you can question. The first rule of being a Ute is talk black, feel brown, love anything not English, and hate any form of nationalism, because that is racist, and to be a racist is worse than being a paedophile. And you get more out of modern society by lying through your teeth anyway. Oh, and I forgot, pander to the media, set up home with your PC and your mobile and set about ruining other people's lives as well as your own. Then the Muslims will take over and you'll become a non-person anyway, so won't count, even if you are allowed to live. There was a missive from a pal a few months ago who is a urologist, and it reads thus. The new breadwinner in the UK. A woman in her late 20s came to the hospital today with her 8th pregnancy. She said to me, my mum told me that I'm the breadwinner for the family. I asked her to explain. She said she can make babies and babies get money from the state for the family. It goes like this. The grandma calls the Department for Work and Pensions and states that the unemployed daughter is not capable of caring for all of her kids. DWP agrees and tells her the children will need to go into foster care. The grandma then volunteers to be the foster parent and receives a cheque for £700 per child each month. Total yearly income £58,800, soon to become £67,200 when the 8th one is born, tax-free, and nobody has to go to work. In fact, they get more if there's no husband or father or man in the home. The brother doesn't count. Not to mention free dental treatment, free housing, free council tax, free school dinners, free tuition fees at college or uni, free eye care and glasses, free prescriptions and various other benefits. Total value of all benefits combined probably approaching £100,000 per annum, which would require an income of around £148,000 to create. That's about my salary as a senior consultant with years of experience and surgical skills in a central London teaching hospital. Indeed, Grandma was correct that her fertile daughter is the breadwinner for the family. That is how the politicians spend our taxes. When this generous programme was invented in the 60s, the Great Society architects forgot to craft an end date. And now we are hopelessly overrun with people who vote only for those who will continue to keep them on the dole. No wonder our country is broke. Worse, our Muslim brothers have been paying attention, and by mandating that each Muslim family have 11 children, they will soon replace the voting bloc above and can be running this country. Are we alarmed yet? Is anybody listening? Don't forget to pay your taxes. There are a lot of breadwinners depending on you. So remember, the governmental groomers of today are grooming the stupids, the drunks, the druggies, the anti-racists and pro-immigrants brigades over the web to submit when they have to Islam, because they will be in no position to do anything else. Apart from the gradual slide of that great propaganda machine called television to what is in a sense black or Asian channels minus the name, and the only two great films of the awards in the US and here being Lost in Space 1 and one about bloody slavery, and neither of which deserve any award, but the noise and bustle around the camel-faced Asian reporter showed how the English have lost their sense of manners since the war and clearly not regained their sense of humour. This country is gradually becoming a third world state. It isn't the fact that we don't have much money, it is the fact that what money we have goes out on everything else outside the country, and that includes the EU. And if our youth are our future, then heaven, not hell, will need to help us, as they won't, or rather won't be able to, as they've been told they are useless by a machine. And machines don't lie, do they? And finally, a joke to offend Mexicans, blacks, Muslims and rednecks. A Mexican, a black, a Muslim and a redneck were walking together on a beach when the black stumbled over a bottle in the sand. He picked up the bottle, rubbed the sand off it, and a genie appeared. "I can only grant 4 wishes," the genie said. "Since there are 4 of you, you may have a wish apiece." Pointing at the black, he said, "Since you found the bottle, you may have the first wish." The black studied for a moment and then said, "I wish for a fleet of ships so that I can gather all my people and take them back to our homeland, Africa." Poof! It was done. Hundreds of ships appeared on the skyline. The Mexican said, "I wish for enough chibi pickups to take all my people back to our homeland in Mexico." Poof! It was done. Row after row of Chevrolet pickups appeared on the beach. The Muslim said, "I wish for 10,000 camels to take all of my people away from this horrible country loaded with infidels so we can live in peace in Muslim countries and serve Allah." Poof! It was done. 10,000 camels suddenly appeared on the beach. Turning to the redneck, the genie asked, "And what is your wish?" The redneck watched as the loaded pickups began moving towards the border, then looked out to sea and watched the loaded ships sailing out into the sunset. Then he looked at all of the Muslims getting on top of the camels and riding off. The redneck said, "Just give me a Bud Light." Doesn't get much better than this. You've been listening to The World at 8. I'm Lynn Moser and I wish you all a very good night.
You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Moser. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Monday the 17th of February 2014. UK firms to slow hiring, tackle weak productivity. Tensions high among Crawley Muslim community as police search properties linked to alleged suicide bomber. British police probe New Britain death in Syria. Denmark to ban halal and kosher slaughter methods. Spain admits firing rubber bullets at migrants swimming to Enclave. Almost 400 immigrants rescued off Lampedusa on Saturday. Austin with World at 8 Armageddon. The new jihadists make Al-Qaeda look like tired old has-beens. Nigeria, cannibal restaurant with roasted human heads on the menu shut down by police. China plans the world's longest undersea tunnel. Thought for the day, has the UK gone mad? And finally, a joke to offend Mexicans, blacks, Muslims and rednecks. UK news. UK firms to slow hiring, tackle weak productivity. The number of British firms looking to recruit new staff has fallen to its lowest since 2010 as companies seek to squeeze more out of existing staff, a quarterly survey of personnel managers showed on Monday. Weak productivity has been a problem for Britain for years and 2013's rebound in growth failed to resolve it. Instead, firms responded to strong economic expansion with more hiring, creating a record number of odd jobs but limiting pay rises. The Chartered Institute for Personnel and Development said on Monday that this may start to change in 2014 with rates of hiring returning to more normal levels, though it would take longer before wages start to rise significantly. The police have the audacity to ask us to house them at the mosque while they carry out their searches. It's a witch hunt. The public are going ballistic. The Muslim community are absolutely outraged by this. Tensions are very high. They are all friends of Mr. Majid. I'm a friend of Mr. Majid. This is such a tight-knit community here. We're all set to meet tomorrow at the mosque and I already know that the temperature will be high. World at 8. Beware, my Islamic friends, you don't want to blow this one out of proportion and cry wolf. When in a host country, especially one that doesn't want or ask for you, you'll have to be more careful. If you cannot handle your extremists, then we will. Get over it. Tensions high amongst Crawley Muslim community as police search properties linked to alleged suicide bomber. Tensions are high amongst the Muslim community in Crawley following reports up to 5 properties are being searched in relation to the suspected Crawley suicide bomber. Police and South East counter-terrorism officers have been at the second property in Langley Green Thursday in what is believed to be part of the inquiry. Arif Syed, chairman of Crawley Mosque and a spokesman for the town's Muslim community, said, "As I understand there is one property being searched in Langley Drive, one in St John's Close, but I'm also being told that there will be further searches carried out. These people are being kicked out of their homes and